morning, everyone. We're starting 9.6a today, and we're going to factor ax squared plus bx plus c again. So what we're going to start out with is this one. Make sure you put a 1 before your t. So remember, this is ax squared times c. So I'm going to do 1 times 14 and get 14t squared. This is bx. Bx is our 9t, so 9t. So now we need to figure out which numbers factor out of 14. So I know I have 1 and 14. I know I have 2 and 7. So what numbers of those add up to 9? Well, I know that 2 and 7 do. So we have 2x and 7x. Or 2t and 7t. Now remember, in here goes ax squared. So our ax squared was 1x squared. Over here is our dx, or our 2t. Again, I need to change this to t again. Down here goes our other one, which was 7t. And then our c goes in the last box. So we need to figure out what times what is going to give us 1. Well, 1 times 1 will give us 1, and a t with both of them. Then 1 times 2, so 2, and we already have the t, so we don't need that. 1 times 7, we already have the t, we don't need that. 2 times 7 gives us 14, so we know that this is right. So our answer then would be 1t plus 2 times 1t plus 7. Now there is a shortcut that you can do. So I'm going to show you this, and then you guys can decide which ones that you want to do. So we're going to stick with the ax squared times c. So we figured out that that was 14t squared. And we're going to stick with the b, which we figured out was 9t. And then we need to figure out, well, we know that 2 and 7 work, so I'm going to put 2t here and 7t here. I'm actually going to erase those t's for this shortcut. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make these into a fraction. Now the number that I'm going to put on the top of my fraction is our a, our coefficient. So I'm going to put 1 on top of each of those. Now what we can do is we're going to take this 1, put an x there, 1, and put an x there. So I'll have 1x over 2, which is going to equal out to x plus 2, because the 2 is positive, and 1x over 7. 7 is positive, so it's going to be 1x plus 7, which is going to give us the same thing we had in the other one. So it's a little bit of a shortcut. You can do that if you want to. We'll try another couple with the shortcut and without. So this is where this one gets a little bit trickier. So now we have 2x squared times 3, which is going to give us 6x squared. We still got the bx, so negative 7x. Now we need to figure out what goes into 6. Well, I know that 1 and 6 go. I know that negative 1 and negative 6 go. 2 and 3. And negative 2 and negative 3. So which one of those would add up to negative 7? Well, I see negative 1 and negative 6. Those would add up to 7. So we get negative 1x and negative 6x. So ax squared is 2x. Dx we figured was negative 1x. Ex was negative 6x. And we figured out c was 3. So if we factor this out, this is where we need to start being careful here. So we see that we have a 3 here, and we have a 2x here. What we need to figure out is how we can get to 3. Where does our 2 need to be on which side? Well, here is times 1, so I know that that can't be 2, so I know that the 2 has to go here. That's going to be 2x. Here is going to be 1x, because we only have a negative 1. So this one has to be a negative 1. Now what times 2 is going to give us negative 6? Well, that's negative 3. So what we're going to have then, if we do negative 3 times negative 1, well, that equals 3. So we know that we did that right. So we'll have 1x minus 3 and 2x minus 1. Now let's try the shortcut. Remember, we need ax squared times c again. So that would be 6x squared. Bx was negative 7x. And we found negative 1 and negative 6. Now we're going to make these into fractions. And what we're going to put on top is the coefficient, so 2. So I'm going to put 2 here, 2 here. So I'll have 2 over negative 1. I'm going to put an x there. And I know that I can't simplify that, so it's just going to be 2x minus 1. Over here, we'll have 2 to the over negative 6. I'm going to put an x there. Now this can be simplified. I can take both 2 out of both of these. So 1x and negative 3. That's going to give me 1x minus 3. So if you look, we get the same answer, 2x minus 1 and 1x minus 3. Same answer. Here, we're going to choose which method you prefer to use. So I'm going to let you guys decide, and I want you guys to do this one on your own. Alright, so we're going to factor this one. It's going to be a little bit tougher. So we're going to take ax squared times c. So our ax is negative 4. Negative 4 times 7 is going to give us negative 28x squared. Our b is going to be 12x. So now we need to figure out what goes into negative 28. Well, I know that one of them has to be negative because we have a negative 28. So it could be 1 and 28. It could be 2 and 14. Or it could be negative 1 and 28. Or 1 and negative 28. Or 2 and negative 14. And negative 2 or 14. So I see that I have 12. We need to add these together to get to 12. Well, I think this last one is going to add together to get to 12. So negative 2x and 14x. So now we're going to go over to our box. Ax squared was negative 4x squared. Dx we figured was negative 2x. Ex was 14x. And our c we found was 7, or we were given that 7. Now we need to be careful with this, because we need to figure out what times what are going to give us these numbers. So let's look at 7. We know that the only numbers that can go into 7 are 1 and 7. So we need to figure out where the 1 is going to go and where the 7 is going to go. Well, I see that 2 is here and 14 is here. So I know that I'm going to need to multiply something by a higher number to get to 14. So the higher number that I see is 7. Then that must mean the 1 is going to go here. Well, how am I going to get negative 2 from 1? Well, I'll have to multiply by negative 2x. Here we get negative 4 and positive 14, so I know that this has to be a positive 2x, and this has got to be a positive 7 and a positive 1. So then our answer would be 2x plus 1 and negative 2x plus 7. That is our factored form. Alright, here we'll do another one like that. We're going to take negative 3 times 2 and get negative 6x squared. And then b is just negative 1x. So we need to figure out, well, we have a negative 6, so one of them has to be negative. So we could have 1, 6, negative 1, or negative 6. We could have negative 2 and 3, or 2 and negative 3. We know that they're going to add together to get to negative 1. So I think 2 and negative 3 are going to get us a negative 1. So we'll have 2x and negative 3x. Ax squared goes in the top left, so negative 3x squared. Then we're going to have 2x and negative 3x. And finally, our c, or 2, goes in the last box. Alright, so let's look at our 2. I know that 2 can only be multiplied by 1 and 2. So I need to figure this out. Well, this is 2 and this is 3. So we know that this has to be 2 and this is going to be 1x. So 1 times 2 is going to give us 2x. Here, we know that we are multiplying by negative 3x, because that is going to give us, 1 times negative 3 is going to give us negative 3x squared. And then what times negative 3 is going to give us negative 3? Well, it's going to be a positive 1. So then if we look and take a look and see if they multiply together, 1 times 2 gives us 2, which is what we want. So our answer then is 1x plus 1 times negative 3x plus 2. Alright, try this one on your own. Use whichever method you prefer, the shortcut or the long way. Remember, if you're doing the long way, it has the x and it has the box. If you're doing the shortcut, it just has the x. Alright, we're going to do a little review since we're getting to the end of the chapter. So what we are going to do here is we're multiplying binomials. So I see 2 terms on each, so I'm going to draw a 4 box, or a 2 by 2 box. So I'll have y plus 5 and y minus 3. Y times y is going to give me y squared. y times negative 3, negative 3y. Y times 5 is 5y. And 5 times negative 3 is negative 15. Now I see two that have the same ending that I can combine to get y squared plus 2y minus 15. This one is a squared, so we're actually doing 2t minus 6 times 2t minus 6. So if I multiply these together, we'll get 2t minus 6 and 2t minus 6. 2t times 2t is 4t squared. 2t times negative 6 is negative 12t. Negative 6 times 2t is negative 12t. And negative 6 times negative 6 is a positive 36. So I see that I can add these two together to get 4t squared minus 24t plus 36. Last one, I'm going to have to draw a big box here because we have 3 terms multiplied by 2 terms. So I'm going to draw a 2 by 3 box. So we'll have 5x squared minus 8 on the side here, because that's the 2 terms, and 3x cubed minus 2x squared plus 4. 5 times 3, that's 15. X squared times x cubed is going to give us x to the 5th power. 5x squared times negative 2x squared, negative 10x to the 4th. And 5x squared times 4 is going to give us 20x squared. Neg 3x cubed times negative 8 is going to give us negative 24x cubed. Negative 2x squared times negative 8 is going to give us a positive 16x squared. And negative 8 times 4 is a negative 32. Now I look to see what I can combine. The only things I can combine this time are 16x squared and 20x squared. So we'll have 15x to the 5th power minus 10x to the 4th power minus 24x squared to the 3rd power plus 36x squared minus 32.